So today we begin with the first class, as we are going to be building an application in Axon Framework. This is the architecture. I already explained it in my introduction. And so at this point, I'm going to put out this presentation. So we are going to be, I'll teach you how to build a microservices using the CQRS and event sourcing. And we are going to be using Axon Framework. Now, these are the application we are going to build. I already explained it here, a gift card. So we have a list of gift cards. You can create a new gift card, assign a value to it, and somebody can have this gift card and be redeeming it. So if someone redeems a gift card, the amount in the gift card will reduce until he finishes the amount in the gift card. So it's fairly easy. This has been done in a webinar, but no clear explanation. And in this very lesson I'm making is going to be really clear. It's from the scratch and it's for beginners. And so let's go ahead to get started. These are the things you are going to learn in this tutorial. So, and we are going to be using IntelliJ IDEA. So the first step we are going to follow is to set up the project in IntelliJ. So I'm going to simply create a new project right here, and I'm going to choose Java SDK 1.8. That is fine. Everything should be okay. I'm going to go next. So take note of step 1. We are going to select Kotlin. We are going to select Kotlin. Kotlin helps us to write classes that are very small in size. That is one-line classes. And in case you are not comfortable with it, simply choose Java. But I recommend you choose Kotlin because that at least you learn something new. So the group ID is going to be Kindson, the genius. So we are going to call it GC demo, and the project name is GC demo. So means gift card demo. If you are joining for the first time, please subscribe to my channel. If you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. So I'm going to continue by saying com.kindson.genius.gc demo. So I'm going to copy the group ID and just paste it in the package name, Ctrl-V, com.kindson.genius.gc demo. Okay. All right, so I'm going to make sure everything is fine. Select Maven and just go next. So a number of things you have to select. We want to store our database using H2. We want to store data using H2 database. We want to use Vaadin for the GUI, and we are going to be using JPA for persistence. Okay, so this is very easy for now. If you have any challenge, please let me know. I'm going to go next, and at this point I think everything is okay. I'm going to save it in my default directory. I'm going to just click on finish. All right, okay, so I'm kind of going to restore this so that I'll be able to see both the tutorial and the project all at once. So let me just shift this upwards and this one downwards. Okay, again, you have the step-by-step for you, and the next thing we are going to do, we are going to create 3 packages inside the com.kindson.genius.gc webinar package. So com.kindson.genius.gc demo package. Okay, so I'm going to shift this a bit and set up my workspace. I'm going to kind of move this away this way. Okay, so I have some more room. So I'm going to create 3 packages. So if I drop down, I go to src main Kotlin. So here I'm going to drop down and I'm going to create 3 packages, and the first one is going to be commands, query, then we have GUI. So I'm going to go package commands. Let's leave it at commands, and the second one is going to be query, and the third one is going to be GUI. So these are pieces of the application. So GUI. All right, so you can actually put everything in the same package, but for now it's better to separate it. Commands is for receiving commands. Post request, we have already explained it. Post, pull, delete, that actually changes the state of the entity or some attribute of the entity. Query is simply to select some data, and GUI is the GUI, the presentation layer. All right, so we have the 3 packages. The next thing we want to do is to set up the Axon, set up and test the AxonServer. Now, this is important. If you have not downloaded AxonServer, download it from here. If you click on this place, you have AxonServer downloaded. Simply unzip it and go to your command prompt. And go to your command prompt. Yeah. So I'm going to open the command prompt and simply navigate where I have the AxonServer. And I'm simply going to start up the AxonServer. So my AxonServer is saying this. Let me go to D /AxonServer/AxonServer 4.2.2. I don't know why it behaves this way sometimes. So I'm going to say Java minus -jar AxonServer.jar. Okay, so the AxonServer is going to start up so that we'll be able to see the AxonServer dashboard, and it's going to be on port 8024 if I'm not mistaken. So let's just allow it to start up at this point. So there is the location, that is the port where it runs. So I'm going to just copy this. So you can see it says Tomcat started, initialize. It seems it have not started. But let's just check. Let me paste this right here and just go next. So it seems it's not started yet. So while we wait for it, let's just continue working. Alright, so we have this AxonServer dashboard, so we're going to come back there to check. So I'm going to simply move to part 2. Part 2 now, it requires that we modify our pom.xml. So here we are going to modify the pom.xml, add the necessary plugin, add the Axon dependency, and complete the pom.xml. Now, for you to work with Vaadin, Kotlin and Maven in the same project, you need to add this plugin. So I'm simply going to copy this plugin and paste it in my pom.xml in the plugin/plugin section. So I'm going to go to the plugin/plugin, just scroll down and go to the plugin/plugin section. It should be somewhere here. I'm just going to paste what I copied, and that is fine. All right. Okay, so the next thing I would like to do is to add the Axon dependency. So this Axon dependency, if I go up, first I'm going to change the Axon version, change the Vaadin version to 8.4.1. So let's go up. So we have Vaadin, this Vaadin. I'm going to change it to 8.4.1, okay, and we are going to be adding this Axon version of 4.2. all right. Again, one more change. This Kotlin version should actually be 1.3.50. I don't really know if this have any much effect, so I'm going to enable auto import, and I'm going to see if I can increase the font size by going to settings. I'm going to should be able to have settings somewhere. Okay, file, settings here, and I'm going to look for how to update the setting and increase the font size. Meanwhile, if we go back to the command prompt, it seems it has finally started AxonServer. If I now go to my browser right here, you can see that the AxonServer actually starts up, as you can see right here. So for now, nothing is there. In overview, you simply have the AxonServer started up. There are no instances at all. All right, hopefully I believe you are following up to this time. So I'm going to go to editor, I'm going to go to font, and I'm going to change the font size to, let me go to general first. Okay, so it should be fonts. Font size to 16. I'm going to apply and say okay. So I think it's better at this point. All right, so let's move on. the next thing we want to do is to add the Axon dependency. So the Axon dependency is here. I'm going to simply copy it and put it right there in the dependency section. So you can see Axon Framework, Axon Framework, Axon Spring Boot Starter, and this is the Axon version. We are using Axon version 4.2. So we have the complete pom.xml file. So this is just for verification purposes if you have made any error whatsoever. So I'm going to move on to the nice parts. Let's scroll down. Everything should be fine. Moving on to part 3 now. I'm going to now set up the commands and the aggregates. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to go back to the architecture we are working with. All right. So now we are trying to set up the commands, the aggregates, and the command and the aggregate. So basically, the aggregate is like the model, the entities. It's actually have some kind of definition that says it's a group of entities that is always kept in a consistent state. So aggregate is like the model, like this, the entity. Just call it this entity. This is what we are trying to set up. We're also going to set up the commands, the event handlers and the commands. So I'm going to take away this. All right, so the first thing we want to do is you can read up here about using Kotlin and Java in the same project. So step 1 says add a Kotlin file in the command package. So this file is going to contain all the commands. So what is a command? A command is simply what happens when something, anything that happens. For instance, a card can be issued, a card can be redeemed. So we have 2 commands. So I'm going to call this file API. So we will need 2 commands, and that is the issue command and the redeem command. And we also need 2 events, the issue event and the redeem event. Remember, when a command is issued, a command makes changes in the database, and after it makes that changes, it's going to raise an event so that the read model can be updated. I already explained this. So we need issue command, issue a card, redeem a card, then issued command. Sorry, issued event, that is, means a card has been issued, and also redeemed event, meaning that a card has been redeemed. So let me just show you how to write these data classes. So actually they are here, but I'm going to simply write it. So we have data class is going to be issue command. So when a new card is issued, it creates a new card, and you need ID. So our ID is going to be string. Data class issued command, so it's going to be val ID string, and val amount, because you need to set an initial amount in this card. It's going to be int. All right, so I'm going to just, the next class is a redeemed command. So I'm going to say redeem command. When a card is redeemed, the amount is going to reduce because you have redeemed a card by removing some money from there. So it has to be redeem command. So I'm going to say val ID string, val amount int as well. So now we need the events as well, which are the events. Yeah, data class. This time is going to be issued, so it's going to be past tense, because we told you that event has to be executed before a command has to be executed before an event occurs. So issued event is going to be val ID. When a card is issued, then we need the ID and the amount as well. Okay. And when a card is redeemed, we also need the ID and the amount as well. So let's keep it simple. Everything is going to be integer. All right, so now we're also going to, when we are issuing a command, when we issue a command, and we need to specify that the command is targeting a particular entity or a particular aggregate. So in that case, we are going to annotate the IDs of the command with as target aggregate identifier, a target aggregate identifier, and for the second command is the same as target aggregate identifier. Okay, so check that everything is okay. It should. All right, so now we need to set up the aggregate. The aggregate is simply the gift card or the entity. I told you about it. So this is the definition of an aggregate. So just have it as a formal definition in your head. So I'm going to create a new Java file. This time is going to be it's like a POJO, but it's going to be annotated with aggregate. POJO simply means plain old Java object or something like that. So I'm going to name it gift card. Okay. So I'm going to annotate with aggregate. Okay, this is fine. And sorry. All right, so this card is going to have ID. It's going to have an ID and also an initial balance. So I'm going to say private integer. The ID is string. I think we did make it string. And okay, so let's start from here. Step 3 says create a private member variable ID which is string, and this is going to be the aggregate identifier. So it's like the ID, but in the language of CQRS, it's going to be aggregate identifier. So command handler is the next thing we are going to be adding. So it's a function that specifies what happens when a command is executed. Command handlers are normally void functions with the name handle, and it takes a parameter, the command they are going to respond to. So step 1, we are going to add 2 command handlers. So basically, the first command handler is going to be a constructor when a gift card is issued, right? So I'm going to say public gift card. So when a gift card is created, we are going to run an issue. We are going to execute an issued command, right? And as we mentioned, a command handler always have to be annotated with @command handler. Okay. All right. So we also so what happens when an issue command is executed? We also need to check. You can't issue a card that has a 0 amount or less than 0 amount. So I'm going to check that if cmd.getAmount is less than or equal to 0, I'm going to throw an exception. I'm going to throw, okay, let me just make it a bit readable. Throw new illegal argument exception, amount must be greater than 0. All right. So however, if it succeeds, we are going to simply apply a new event. So I'm going to simply say apply a new event, because now this issue command executed. So when it succeeds, we simply apply a new event, issued event, and a new issued event, cmd.getID and cmd.getAmount. Okay. So we apply a new issued event. This comes from, I can't remember more options, import static method. Okay, so yeah, import static method, that is fine. All right, so at this point, we also need another command handler. This time is going to handle redeemed command. So instead of copying and pasting, I'm going to type it out, and I recommend you type it out if you want to line CQRS and event sourcing with Axon Framework. You simply have to be doing this and get your hands dirty with doing it. So it's going to be handled this time, because in this case we are not creating a new card, we are simply handling the redeem commands, CMD. We are redeeming a card. The amount has to be less than the balance, and also it has to be greater than 0. So I'm going to check if CMD dot get amount, if the amount is less than, if it's greater than the balance. And now we don't have balance for now, so we need to create this state or this attribute called balance. So I'm going to simply come to more actions and create a field called balance in gift card. So that is an explanation that is given that you don't actually add all the attributes at the first time. You only add attributes that are necessary or that are being used for a command. Okay. So if the amount is greater than the balance, the amount you are trying to redeem, you are going to throw an exception, throw new illegal argument exception, amount must be less than or equal to balance. Okay. All right, so we also, so if the amount is less than 0 as well, we also need to create another exception. So in this case, we are going to check if the amount is less than 0. So if the amount in this case is less than, so let's get this done. If the amount is less than, 0, okay, if the amount is less than 0, then we are going to throw another exception. Amount must be greater than 0. Okay. Okay, so so this is fine. So amount must be greater than 0. And if everything goes fine, we are now going to apply a new redeem event, a new redeemed event, and I'm going to say cmd.getID and cmd.getAmount. Okay. All right. So these are the two command handlers. When a gift card is issued, there's a command that creates a new gift card. And when it's redeemed, there's a command that actually reduces. Oh no! So when a card is redeemed, the amount apply a new. Okay, this is fine. Okay, so this is fine for now. So we also need to create an empty constructor that is necessary. So I'm going to simply create a new public empty constructor, because the object is created before it is assigned attribute. So we actually need a new empty constructor. All right, so we need to add event sourcing handler. So an event sourcing handler is an event executed when an event occurs. All right, so commands are simply to execute this action, and event sourcing, when an event is emitted after a command is executed, an event sourcing handler is now triggered. So we are going to create on issued event. So whenever when an issued event occurs, and also when a redeemed event occurs. An event sourcing handler is annotated with event sourcing handler, and it's going to be public void on issued event, EVT, So what happens when an event is issued? When a card is issued, you simply set the ID of the card. ID is equal to evt.getID, and also set the balance, because at this point the balance should be exactly the same as the amount used to create the card. So balance is equal to evt.getAmount. Okay, so this is what happens when an event, when a card is issued. This event occurs. Now, when a card is redeemed, the balance has to be reduced. So we have another event sourcing handler is going to be public void on redeemed events evt. So now, if you don't actually understand this perfectly at this time, no problem, just keep doing it. After some time, you are going to get it over your head. So meanwhile, don't copy and paste, try to type it out. So at this point, we are going to simply reduce the balance based on the amount in the event. So balance now is going to be balance minus evt.getAmount. So we are reducing the balance or decreasing the amount on this gift card. So I'm going to save all. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, now we've created event handlers, we've created the event sourcing handlers. Event sourcing handlers is not the same as event handler. Take note, it's not the same as, it's just event sourcing handlers. What happens when an event occurs? Command handlers, what happens when a command occurs? Event handlers are different. Alright, so we've completed writing the handlers. I'll recommend you build the project just to make sure it's fine. That I'll say you should do. So we are moving on to part 4. We are now going to build the GUI using Vaadin. So in this case, we have the GUI at this point. I made a sketch of this GUI, so let me just click on it. So this is what it looks like. So we have this GUI at this point. So we have two panels. We have inside the panel, we have some controls which are actually inside the form, and this form, these panels plus another grid view under, they are placed inside a form, inside a layout in the GUI panel. So have that in mind. We are going to go through step by step how to do it in this part. Okay, so let me position my the window again the way it should be. So we have the first panel for issue. So you need to enter the ID and the amount and submit. That is, you've created a new card or you've issued a card. So let's get started. Make sure that your Vaadin version is 8.4.1. Let's just check. Vaadin version here is 8.4.1. Now we are going to create a class in the GUI package and named gift card GUI. So we are now doing the fun part. Now you need to take note of how Vaadin works. So I'm going to create the GUI class. So if you have used AWT before, you'll find out that this is really easy. You simply gift card GUI, that is fine. So you simply write the code to create all the components. We are going to make this card extends UI. Okay. Right, so we are going to make this extend UI, and we are going to, let's see, implement. Okay, so at this point I'm going to say this squiggly line here. I'm going to say just implement methods. Okay, so it's going to be init. We are going to implement the init method, because when you extend the UI, you actually must implement the init method. So make sure it is time to implement the init method. Okay, that is fine. Implement the init method, generate implement methods. Okay, we already did this. Annotate this class with @spring UI annotation. So this class is going to be annotated with @Spring UI. Okay, now comes another fun part. Remember we say that the UI have to go through a gateway. Any command have to go through a gateway. That is what we are going to do now. I'm not going to open this layout or this architecture again, but I hope you should have it. I think I should upload it. Check the description box of this video. Maybe you'll see the JPEG file for the architecture. All right, so we are going to create a command gateway. It's going to be private final command gateway. Okay, so we need a command gateway, and we also need to add. I'm going to simply go down. So it says below it, you can also add a constructor. So if you see you have this error, simply add a constructor parameter, and this is fine, right? So create the issue and redeemed panel. Now I could copy and paste this code, but I will not do that. I'm going to actually type it out. So I'm going to go down here and create a method that returns a panel. So I'm going to say private panel. I'm going to call it issue panel. Okay, issue panel. All right. So import class, that is fine. It's going to be Vaadin panel. So I'm going to create two test fields, and one button. So I'm going to say text field ID is equal to new text field ID. Okay, that is fine. Another text field is going to be for the amount, is equal to new text field amount. Okay, and now we need a submit button. So I'm going to say button submit is equal to new button. So it's going to be Vaadin and it's going to be submit. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is going to be double quotes, not single quotes. All right. So now we need to add a listener to this button. So when we click on this button, something is going to happen. So I'm going to add a listener to the button. So I'm going to say submit dot add click listener. Okay, so I'm going to just shift this one down. I'm going to say event, so it's going to handle an event, and this is going to be the event. Okay, so it's going to handle an event inside here. Okay, so give me a second. Permit me to just clarify. Okay, all right, so this is what happens. So the event, we are going to code for the event. Okay, so the event, what is going to happen, we are going to create a new issued command and send this command into the gateway, right? So it makes some sense. I showed you the architecture before. So I'm going to say issue commands, issue commands cmd is equal to new issue commands. We are now going to use the values coming from the text field. So it's going to be id dot get value, it's a string, id dot amount dot get value. For this amount dot get value comes as a string, and the issue command requires that the amount be an integer. So I'm going to simply say integer dot pass int, and then I'll give it the amount. Sorry, let's just shift this and give it the amount, the value from the text box. So in this way, we have a string, and we have, of course, we have a string inside here. But when we use integer.parseInt, we have a string, an integer as well. Okay, having created this command, we are going to send it into the gateway. So I'm going to simply say command gateway dot send and wait. So you send and wait for synchronous to send it. I think we send it synchronously since we are saying send and wait. So it's going to tie up the thread until the command is executed. Okay, so where are we? So this is where we are. So this is what happens, and once the command executes, we are going to show a success message notification.show, and I'm going to say successfully executed, successfully, or let me just say gift card successfully created. Gift cards successfully issued. Okay, all right. So, and we are going to also specify how the message is going to look like. It's going to be notification type, notification the type dot humanized message. Okay, so this is what happens. Let's see. Okay, so basically we have the submit button created, and we have this panel as well. Okay, so we need to now add the controls onto a form. So all these controls, all these three controls have to be in a form. So I'm going to add them onto a form, and then add that form onto the panel. So I'm going to say form layout form is equal to new form layouts. Okay, and this form dot set margin true. So it's going to have some margin, and I'm going to simply add the controls to the form. So I'm going to add ID, amount, and submit. The controls I created, I'm adding into a form, and I'm simply going to add this form to the panel. Okay, so I'm going to say panel. I'll create a new panel first. Panel equal to new panel. And if you create a new panel, you need to specify the caption of the panel, issue panel, and then you need to add the form onto the panel by saying panel dot set contents form. Okay, so I'm adding the form onto the panel. Okay, and finally I'm going to return the panel. So basically, see what is happening here. I'm going to scroll up. We've created the issue panel, that is this one. So we created this issue panel, created a form, added controls onto the form, and then add this form onto the panel, and we are returning this panel. So this panel, we have it. Okay, so now I'm going to go down back, copy and paste this code again, because we also need a similar panel for the redeemed event. So I'm going to paste this code again. Now I'm going to change up things. This time I'm going to say redeem panel, and gift card successfully redeemed. So this time we are doing an event, redeem events. Okay, redeem events. Sorry, it's not redeem event. Sorry, so it's redeem commands cmd. So because when you are redeeming, is a command, redeem commands. Okay, perfect. So why do we have this redeem commands? Sometimes they have this typo. Import class, that is fine. All right, so what are we missing out? So this is going to be redeem panel. Okay, All right, so this is what we have. We've created the two panels, and that is fine. We are not done yet. We need to add this panel to the layout. So let's go back to the init method. So when you are creating a GUI in Vaadin, everything is actually done in the init method. All right. So let's create a horizontal layout because we want to lay out this form horizontally, just like this. So we're actually talking about these two panels. We want them to be horizontal. Okay. Horizontally separated apart. So I'm simply going to say create a horizontal layout commands is equal to new horizontal layout, okay, and commands the set size is gonna be full screen size or full window, whatever, and I'm going to simply add the two panels to this horizontal layout I created. So I'm going to say commands.add components, issue panel, and redeem panel. All right, so we've created the layout and we've added the two panels to the layout. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so we also required to, now when we have this vertical layout is created because we're also going to add another grid under. So we have this horizontal layout above and another layout under. So we have this layout above and the second one under is arranged in vertical layout. Okay, hopefully this makes sense to you. So I'm going to create a vertical layout is equals new vertical layout, right? So actually it's not is equal to, but gets, or is assigned. Okay, so layout dot set size full and layouts dot add components, and I'm going to add the commands to it. Commands, yes, is a horizontal layout. So we have only one item in the horizontal layout, which is called commands. In the vertical layout, which is called commands, and that commands is a horizontal layout. I'm going to say layout dot set. I'm going to now add components, and I'm going to add commands. Okay, I already did this. Just take all this. Okay. Okay, so we have the layout. So according to Vaadin, we need to now set the contents of the GUI using set contents layout. Okay. All right. So this set contents is a method. I think it should be a class method that is under this init that is provided. That has to be that comes. You need to specify using under the init, so you actually don't have to create it. Okay. Okay. Finally, we need error handler. So I think I could right click and say generate error handler. I don't know if I can do that. Generate error handler. I don't have it. Okay. So I'm going to simply type it out. So I'm going to say set error handler. Meanwhile, I could also we add two panels, then we also add the error handler. So I'm going to set the error handler. That's what you need to do. Set error handler. Okay, so set error handler. See. It's gonna be new default error handler. Okay, so new default error handler. Let's see. Okay. so have new default error handler. So I'm going to say trouble. The cause of this error is what we want to display on the screen. So the cause is equal to events. Sorry, let me just get something right. Let me just get something right. So when we have an error handler, we can override methods by clicking override methods, and it's going to be this error event, just one thing. All right, so this is what should be. Sorry, I'm mixing up some things. Okay, so I'm going to say throwable. The cause of this error is gotten from event.get trouble event.get trouble equal to event.get trouble. Okay. Now, while cause.get cause is not empty, is not equal to null, we are going to simply say cause is equal to cause.get cause. Alright, so this is what we have. And then we are going to display the message. So notification.show and notification.show cause.get message, and we need to specify the notification type. The type this time is going to be error message that is going to be shown. All right, perfect. So hopefully everything should be fine. So we have our GUI perfectly created. So I'm going to kind of run this application. Meanwhile, I need to add configuration. So to add a configuration, a run configuration, you have the step says click on the run, click on the run. I can actually do it from another place. I can click on run and then choose edit configuration. So at this point, I can just click on the plus sign and choose Maven, because Maven, and it's going to be Spring Boot Run. All right, so Spring Boot Run apply. Then before you launch it, I want to also build the project. I'm going to say apply, and I'm going to say run. So I've started running it, and hopefully it's going to start up successfully. And if it starts up successfully, we are going to access it at port 8080. And one thing I want to also let you know, once this application starts up, we look at our Axon dashboard, we'll be able to see this application pop up right here, telling you that there's an instance of an application that is now running. So now in this part, the next part after we've tested it, we are now going to build the query module. Okay, so I want you to just take a look at the dashboard, and you can see once everything is fine, the instance is going to pop up at this point. Do this. Okay, so you can see, the application starts up, and that is fine. So if we go to port 8080, I'm going to say HTTP localhost at port 8080. You can see that our panel showed up, the issue panel and the redeem panel. So everything is fine, and our dashboard is okay. We can see the application. Let's now move to the next part. So we are going to build the query model now. In this part, we will build the query module. This is in line with the CQRS principle. So we are now going to the query module to build the query module. We are going to build the API, create the data provider, and then review what we've done so far. So let's go to the query package. So I'm going to go to the query package. I'm going to right click and add a new API, a new Kotlin file. So we're also going to be adding the handlers when a query occurs. So basically in the architecture, an event occurs, pass through the event gateway, query occurs through the query gateway as well. So this is actually very easy to understand. This file will hold the entity that will be stored in the database. Annotate this class with an entity annotation, and inside this file, create a data class with name cat summary. Right? Let's see. Okay. So let me just scroll down just to make sure everything is fine. Okay, good. So I'm going to say data class card summary. So card summary is simply a gift card. Make no mistake about it. It's simply a gift card, but when we are looking at it from the command view, we call it gift card, but in looking at it from the query view, we are calling it card summary because we are retrieving the summary or the information about the card. So just don't get confused, they are about the same thing. So this card summary is going to be annotated with, of course, I'm going to complete it by, it's going to have ID, initial balance, and remaining balance. So let's see. Entity, so this comes from JPA, Java Class Persistence. So it's going to be var on the path ID, var ID is going to be string. So it's also nullable. So I don't know, but it seems without being nullable, it's not going to work. So initial balance is going to be int equal to 0, and the remaining balance is going to be int as well. It's going to be equal to 0, and that is fine. Okay. Actually, we need a comma here and not a semicolon. All right. So this ID comes from Java.persistence. Okay. Perfect. All right. So this represents the same gift card was stored in the read model. Okay. So at this point, we need a data provider. So data provider is actually something that transfers information from the database or from the data backend to the Vaadin GUI. So it's a Vaadin component. So we have to create data provider in the gift card GUI class, and this is required to create a projection that will be used in the grid. So in the gift card GUI, create a final private variable called data provider. So I'm going to put down, go back to the gift card GUI to transfer data to the GUI. We need the data provider. So I'm going to say private final data provider, and it's going to be cats. It's going to work with cat summary, private data provider card summary. So the class is going to be working with is card summary. Okay, but you also need this data provider equal to data provider is equal to data provider. This data provider is equal to data provider query gateway. So let's just scroll down. So we have placed your cursor on the data provider query gateway code. Okay, and create methods data provider in the gift card GUI. This is fine. So I'm going to simply return new abstract backend data provider, and we'll have that two additional methods is created for us. Okay, fetch from backends, which is this. If you are not following, don't worry. To make sense after you do it a couple of times, so don't worry yourself. We now need to implement these methods. Before we write to implement this method, we need to create the data query and the size query. Okay, we need to create the data query and the size query. Okay, so I'm going to open the API I created in the query module here. We are going to create two more classes. I'm going to say data class data query. So basically, these are a query that returns a set of items. So we need to provide the offset, and the limit. Offset is int, and limit is int as well. Int as well. Okay. All right. So this represents a data query that returns a list of items, but you need to provide an offset and a limit. So you are not just getting all. It's not like find all. It's like find, select from it in a particular range of items. Now we have the size query, simply returns the number of items there. So class size query. All right. Save everything. So we need to go back to the GUI, and at this point, back to the GUI here. We are now going to implement the two methods, the fetch from backend and size in backend. So I'm going to say return. Let's see. Okay, so we have data provider card summary. That is fine. Return new abstract. Okay. Now this is where we are. We are going to return all of this. Okay. So in case you want to see it, you can simply expand the window a bit so it becomes a bit clearer. But it's better I write it out and I explain it to you. Okay. So let me just scroll down to where we are. Okay. So I'm going to return. Shift it. I'm going to return, instead of returning null, I'm going to return, we override the stream. Okay, we are going to return query gateway. So we are getting some, when you are making a query, you are sending it through the gateway, and you are going to also getting some data back. You are getting this query from the query gateway. So I'm saying query gateway.query. Okay, we are now going to create a query that returns some items. So I'm going to say new data query, new data query return, new data query, query that. So we are specifying the offset and the limit query. The get offset and query the get limit. Okay, that is fine. And we need to specify the response type. Let me go down. Response type. We are returning a list of cards. We are going to say dot multiple instances of card summary dot class, card summary dot class, and then dot join summary dot class. Let's say dot join dot stream. Okay, perfect. So at this point, we say query gateway.query. We are creating a new data query, providing an offset. Offset is coming from the query, and also providing a limit. Okay, and then we specify the response type, and then return it as a list of cat summaries. Okay, so we do the same, something similar for the size in backend. So in this case, we are going to return query gateway dot query, and in this case it's going to be new size query, and then it's going to be response types dot instance of. So we are returning just an integer that represents the size of the item. Return integer dot class. All right, and it's going to be dot join. All right. Okay, so this is what we have so far. I'll put a semicolon here. So far, so good. So now we have a brief review. We started by creating the entity class that represents the gift card. Then we added a data provider variable to the GUI. Then we did a construction injection of the data provider to the GUI. And then we created a data query and a size query. And we implemented data provider method, which returns abstract backend data provider. Then we actually implemented the fetch from backend and the size in backend. So we are now going to build the summary projection. So basically, I think we are coming to the end. The summary projection is simply basically a list of items that's like a way to write a query that actually does the selection of items from the read model. Now this part we will create the summary projection, and this class will be part of the query package. This will be a Spring Bean annotated with that component and will be responsible to handle persistence. So basically, fetching data. It will be able to save data and also retrieve data. So this, we are now building the repository. Make no mistake about it. What we are building now is the repository. All right. Create a class called summary projection in the query package. So I'm going to right click on my query package and say new Java class. I'm going to call it summary projection. Summary projection, that is fine. Summary projection, and this class is going to be component because it's going to be a bean. All right, so we are going to be using Entity Manager because we are talking about persistence of fetching data from database and adding data to the database. So we are going to say private final entity manager. Okay. So I'm going to simply just give a second. I'm going to simply create a constructor for this by right clicking and say generate constructor, and I'm going to just say okay. All right, so we have our entity manager here that we are going to use to persist data in the database or in the repository. So actually, entity manager uses repository under the hood. We are going to create event handlers for issued event and redeemed event. So actually, this is happening from the repository to the database. So it's something that the actual saving of the data to the database and fetching of the data from the database is what we are trying to do. So we are going to create event handlers for issued events and redeemed event. This time we are not creating event sourcing handler, we are creating event handler. All right, so create the 4 handlers. We need 2 event handlers, 2 query handlers. So I'm going to say event handler. This one is going to be public void handle issued event. So remember, when something happens in the database, something is saved, then an event is triggered that is going to update the other model, the read model. All right. So that's what we are doing right here now. Another event handler, public void handle redeemed event, EVT. All right, so issued event EVT as well. Okay, so maybe I'll simply show you the architecture again so that you understand what is happening, or maybe just open up the architecture and look at it so that it becomes a bit clearer to you. I'm going to say a query handler, public query. This time we need to get a list of cards, card summaries, public list of card summaries, and it's going to handle data query. No. All right, so okay, so this is what we have. So this comes from util. Okay, that's fine. Another query handler to return the number of items fetched. So I'm going to say handle size query. All right, good. So we have the four handlers. We have these event handlers. We have these query handlers. Okay. So now for the issued events, we are now going to save the data into the database. So I'm going to say entity manager.proceed new card summary, and it's going to be evt.getID, evt.getAmount. And for new cards, the amount is the same as the initial balance and is the same as the final balance. So get amount again. All right. So we have a new card created based on the issue event and inserted into the database as well. Okay. So this in the case of the redeemed event, we are going to find the particular card summary, and then we are going to reduce the balance based on the amount on the redeemed event. I'm going to say card summary equals entity manager.find. I'm going to find the card summary.class, and based on the ID. Okay, I'm going to find the card that has this ID. I'm going to say summary.set remaining balance, set remaining balance, and summary.get remaining balance. You now need to minus or subtract evt.amount. Okay, so simply subtract the amount, and that is all. So that's what you do here. This step 10 that say configure tracking event processor. Well, sometimes it's not really necessary, but it seems sometimes it seems, I can't remember, maybe it works without it or it doesn't work. I can't remember, but let's just add it for adding import class. Okay, so just to be on the safe side, let's add it. So for the list query handler now, we have the query handlers to get a list of items. So what I'm going to say here, I'm going to say simply, we're going to actually write the query to return the list of items. I'm going to return entity manager.create query, and I'm going to simply write the select statement, select C from cat summary, from cat summary order by c.id, and specify what we want to return. Cat summary.class dot get result lists. Okay, perfect. Select C from cat summary order by c.id. I really don't want to have any error in this because I don't want to be backtracking to be debugging. So for the size query is about similar to the same thing. So I'm going to say return entity manager dot create query I'm going to say select count of C from cat summary C. Okay, but in this case we are returning can be long.class. So I'm actually using something that I've used before and it worked. Get single results dot int value, and that is fine. All right. So run the application. Also start the Axon server test to make sure everything is fine. That is fine. So this is a complete code right here. Now, since I'm running out of time, I'll allow you to run it by yourself. So in the next part, we are now going to build the query module. Sorry, we are going to display this data in a grid view in the GUI. So I'm going to go to part 7 at this point. So in part 7, we will first create a method that returns the grid, and inside this method we are going to create a new grid, add 3 columns to the grid, and finally we are going to set the grid data provider property, and then we are going to go to the init method in the GUI and then add this grid to the layout. I think it's fair enough. So at this point we are going to go back to the GUI, and I would like to go down below the 2 panels because we have 2 panels and 1 grid. So I'm going to just create a grid view. I'm going to say create a method named summary grid. I'm going to say private grid cat summary grid. Okay. All right. So this method is going to return me a grid that contains list of items. And now inside this method, we are going to create a new grid. So I'm going to say grid cat summary grid equal to new grid cat summary. Okay. Just to make sure, I'm going to scroll down to the code part so that we don't have any error. So we have this. Okay, so new grid cat summary. All right, so I'm going to set the size to full. So I'm going to say grid.set size full and grid.add column cat summary get ID. Okay, get ID, fine. And set caption, and this is going to be ID. I'm going to add another column, grid.add column cat summary, and this is going to be get the initial balance, and I'm going to say set caption initial balance, and add the last grid grid dot add the last column card summary. No. Okay, so it's gonna be get remaining balance dot set caption remaining balance. Okay. All right. Perfect. So I'm going to save everything. I'm going to put a semicolon here because everything is okay. So this grid, I'm going to set the data provider. Well, let's correct this typo. All right. Let's go back a little bit and just, it's going to be double quotes. So I'm going to say grid set data provider. That is fine. And I'm going to return grid. All right, good. So this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay, so now when something happens in the GUI, we need to refresh the GUI, more like refresh the grid. But let's refresh just the GUI completely, refresh everything. So to do that, we are going to, so anytime a notification is displayed, we are simply going to refresh the grid. So to do that, we are simply going to add, at this point, we have this humanized message. I'm going to simply say, and I'm going to just do it in the next line, that add close listener data provider dot refresh all. That's what you need to do. And also do it here, dot add close listener, and it's going to be X data provider dot refresh all, and that is fine. So another place we have a notification is right here. So I'm going to add the add close listener. Going to be X the hyphen data provider dot refresh all. Great. All right. So hopefully we should be fine. So do the same for the other messages. Now we need to add the grid to the layout. So we are going to go back to the init method. Remember the init method where we set all our layouts. So we're going to add the grid to this layout. Okay. So before the set content line, in the init method, just before the set content line, we are going to set the size to full. Now, all right. So this is the set content. Okay. Step 1 in the init method, before the set content line, create a new vertical layout. Okay. Create a new vertical layout. Just want to make sure everything's fine. Horizontal layout. Okay. Which I already did, which is this. Add commands to the summary. Add the commands and the summary grid to the layout using layout the set content. So I'll simply add, because I already added the command, so I'm going to simply add the summary grid here, right? Remember the command is a horizontal layout, and the vertical layout contains the horizontal layout of the commands and also the summary grid, all right? So this is everything. I think everything should be fine. And at this point, I'm going to just run the application. Let me see if I'm missing out anything. Hopefully not. So I'm going to stop it. And I'm going to rerun it. I'm going to save everything first, save all, and I'm going to rerun it. Okay, so I think everything should be fine. Okay. Okay, but I think we missed out something because we actually need a H2 database. Okay, anyway, let's go try. We need a database. I don't know if. Okay, so I'm going to just press escape and just refresh this page. Okay, so now we don't have the database. Okay, so we don't have the database. unable to resolve path C.id, unexpected token C. So let's go back to the summary projection. Select count C from cat summary C. Select C from cat summary C. Okay, this is going to be C. So permit me to just add a H2 database configuration. So I'm going to simply say H2 database kind of the genius. So just type it that way, and we can see here we can get a H2 database configuration. So just copy this and put it right there. I can't remember if we use H2 in our pom.xml. Okay, we use H2. Yeah, we use H2. So we need to put H2 configuration in the application.properties file right here. So I'm going to just paste it here, and the name of the database is going to be gift card. All right. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to save all, and I'm going to relaunch the application again. We should have our instance any moment from now, as you can see. Right. All right. So I'm going to come here and go to this place, press escape. It refreshes, and you can see I really don't know, because I have actually issued some commands, some queries before now, so that is why we have this. So let's just issue a new gift card. Let me call this card my friend. That is you, my friend, and I'm giving you this gift card. So this is just the name of the gift card containing 1,000 units, and submit. You can say my friend has 1,000 units, and I can actually go to my friend and redeem. Let's say I want to redeem 10. It also redeemed, and you can say my friend now have 990. If I redeem again, it redeemed 980 is left. All right. So this is how it works. Everything worked perfectly well. I'd like to thank you for being there. We are going to work on a different project that has completely different configuration than this one. But for now, this is actually how to work with CQRS and event sourcing using Axon Framework. Remember to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it around. Let's get as many as possible. And feel free to leave me a comment if you have any challenges. I remain kind on the Tech Pro. I promise to share my knowledge, and I'm always there for you.